All right, let's rock and roll. Jamie Cochran, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor to have you. For our listeners who may not be familiar with you and your work, who are you and what do you do?
Great question. I always hate talking about myself, right? I come on these podcasts and in my opinion, it doesn't matter who I am. That means nothing. It's more about the content what we teach. But for the sake of introduction, I work at a company called Echelon Front. I'm the chief operating officer there. I've been a part of the organization for 9 years. And prior to that, I had a normal life growing up. And I landed in this opportunity at Echelon Front really through happen chance, some interesting timing. And it's been just an incredible journey, seeing the company grow and then the work that we get to do on site with our clients, teaching leadership, learning leadership. It's just an incredible opportunity that I somehow stumbled upon.
Oh, that is awesome. I would like to get into your journey from maybe working at an academic institution to now basically on stage teaching battle-learned leadership concepts with battle-hardened Navy SEALs like Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. You, in a few short years, you went from like an administrative position to the chief operating officer. If we could talk about your journey. I'd love to talk about women in leadership. Also, too, I'd love to talk about what you guys have going on at your academy online. I love the applying leadership to your everyday life, especially your family. Maybe we could touch on that. And if we have an extra minute or two, maybe a little jiu-jitsu about your journey in jiu-jitsu. I understand you just started training yourself, and I'd love to see what life lessons you took from that, if that's possible. If that's okay with you.
Love it.
All right, let's rock and roll.
Sounds great.
Let's fast forward a little bit here. Love to spend a lot of our time talking leadership and the core concepts. How does someone who wants to study music and can sing, and maybe at one point you worked in an academic institution, how do you find yourself on stage with Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, talking about the leadership rules learned in combat? How's that happen?
Oh man, that was an interesting journey. So and let me be clear, when I started Echelon Front, never in my wildest dreams would I have envisioned that I would be where I'm at today, doing what I get to do today. I started in my first major career, I guess, was in higher education. I was working at San Diego State University. And I got an amazing opportunity there to work with young up-and-coming leaders. I really started to recognize that I had a passion for event planning and operations support, processes, procedures, but I also got these incredible opportunities at SDSU leading. It was my first time out of college where I now had not only a staff of people that I had to lead, but a student board of 60 student leaders. And so I got this really unique opportunity to be surrounded by passionate, enthusiastic students. And I got an opportunity to guide and direct them as their advisor. And it gave me a lot of lessons learned. And so I really started cultivating a passion for leadership around that time. And then my husband, who served at SEAL Team 1 with Leif Babin, I got to know Leif a little bit through some happen chance and kind of meetings here and there. We worked on an event together, so I got to work with him a little bit there in San Diego. And it was a couple of years later, actually, we left. My husband got out of the military. He was going to business school, and Leif came out to Boston and was really coming to talk to Flynn, my husband, about joining Echelon Front and telling him about the book that they were writing and the company that they were building. And it was that night that I just threw it out there. I sent Leif an email and said, hey, I really was inspired by what you guys are doing. I'm looking for my next mission. I don't know what kind of support you might need, but if you ever need someone, I'm standing by and I'm up for anything. And I just threw my hat in the ring, and that led to an opportunity with them a couple months later to join in really a part-time administrative support capacity with no real promise as to what that would someday be. How we got here is a series of a bunch of different things that happened and the opportunity that I was given right out the gate. And what I decided very early on was that I was going to give and try to provide as much value as I possibly could. And if that led to something, then awesome. And if it didn't, then that was going to be okay too. I could always go back and pivot in my career opportunities. And about a year after I joined, the book came out. And shortly after that book came out, I was full-time in the game, starting to build the team. So it's been an incredible journey.
I'll get to the book in a moment, but one of the things I learned, like just doing some research and hearing you tell your story on all the great content they have on the online academy, is you had an experiment mindset. Like you basically gave yourself 1 year and you reassessed, right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't say, this is forever, this is for a million years. It's, I'm going to try this, I'm going to experiment. And are you familiar with Tim Ferriss, the podcaster Tim
Of
Ferriss?
course.
Yeah, so he's a big fan of Tim Ferriss. And I think that's initially how I found out about Jocko way back in the day. I think he was on the Ferriss show way back in the day. But Tim
That
Ferriss
that was his first big podcast.
was it really?
Tim
That's
Ferriss
right.
is
Okay, yeah. That's when I
Yep.
first heard of him. I'm like, wow, this guy's got to have his own show. And literally, but Tim has an experiment mindset. Tim always talks about, okay, I'm going to do something. I'm going to try a podcast. I'll do it for 10 episodes, and it's not forever, just to see how it goes. Then I'm going to reassess. And that's what you did with the Echelon Front, right? You jumped in and just said, gave it a year and then see what it's like.
Yeah. What's interesting is that, so I had 3 kids at that time. My youngest was fairly small. She wasn't even a year when I started with Echelon Front. And I had this very incredible opportunity at San Diego State. And now I was taking on this option at Echelon Front, which was part-time, pretty far back in my career progress. At San Diego State, I had a staff, I had a team of people. Now I'm working for hourly part-time pay. And it was a couple steps back. But what I realized is that I love the mission that Leif and Jocko were looking to achieve. And as I got to know them, even early on, before I really had these strong relationships, I recognized that they were sincere and authentic. And that meant so much to me. And what they offered me, maybe it wasn't the title, maybe it wasn't the team and the staff or the pay. What they offered me was a lot of autonomy and the ability to add value. And so I gave myself a time limit because I had 3 kids that I had to put in daycare. I'm paying full-time childcare for part-time work. Those things don't add up. So I basically made myself a commitment. I'm going to do this for a year and then I will reassess. And I can always go back to higher education. I can go somewhere else. I can find the next mission, but I'm going to really go all in for 1 year and see what comes of this.
Yeah, I tell you, that daycare is no joke. I have 3 kids myself and all of them through daycare. And at some point, 2 of them were in at the same time. And it was like you're paying for college. You have 2 daycare bills. It's like someone's in college and you're cash flow in college, right? Like it's crazy. Oh my God.
Significant.
Crazy. So let's go big picture and we'll dial in leadership. Right? So much of what Echelon Front talks about, Jocko and Leif, and what you do on stage is leadership. What is your definition of leadership?
My definition of a leader is any human being who interacts with other human beings. What I think about leadership is that leadership is truly how we solve every single problem or challenge we face in our life, business or in our personal lives. It's leadership that can guide us to solving those problems and challenges.
So you're saying anyone who interacts with other people is leadership. Something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can lead. I think one of the main takeaways I learned through the years of like this book here, the Field Manual, Extreme Ownership, is you don't have to have the title to lead. Everyone in the organization has a leadership responsibility and is a leader or should be a leader. Take it from there.
100%. So we have what we call our core beliefs at Echelon Front. And I think this captures what we believe as it relates to leadership. And in my years of service at Echelon Front, I have seen this play out time and time again. The first belief is leadership at every level. So too many people feel like, oh, I'm not a traditional leader of people. I don't hold a leadership title, or I'm not a manager of people in my organization. And we like to dispel that right out the gate. When we talk about leadership, we're not only talking about the CEO at the highest level in an organization, we're talking about every single level within that organization, down to the frontline employee who's only managing themselves and their piece of the mission. We also talk at Echelon Front, our second core belief is leadership in every capacity. So while our business is based on teaching leadership for organizations and companies, we believe that these leadership skills and principles can be applied at home with your families, in your communities, and within yourself. What are the leadership standards that you hold for yourself? And then obviously we think that leadership is a skill. We know leadership is a skill. And I think too often people think that this is something you are born with. Right out the gate, that is not true. This is absolutely something that people can learn, they can practice, they can get better at, they can improve upon. And there are skills, just like any other skill that we teach, leadership is a skill that you can learn. And then the last thing we believe at Echelon Front, and I hinted at this, is that leadership is the solution to every single problem that you face. So our beliefs on leadership is that this is for everyone in every capacity.
You mentioned leaders, are they born or made? They're made. They're absolutely made. It's like jujitsu. It's like sales. Like you're not a natural born anything. It's like you might have some talent that you could develop if you worked hard at it, maybe a natural inclination that, wow, I enjoy doing this, but I still have to put the work in. But leaders are made, right? What do you see with all the work you guys do?
Absolutely. People are born with attributes that might help them become a better leader. People are sometimes born with just the natural ability to communicate effectively. Some people have that natural ability to just get along with everyone. Some people have that natural ability to persuade people, to convince them or influence them in certain ways. And those skills can certainly help you in becoming a stronger leader. But I have seen this over and over again. People that don't have necessarily those natural abilities can take these principles, apply them, and be effective leaders in every capacity that they're trying to be, whether it's leading their children, leading their spouse, leading themselves, leading their organization, their team members. My favorite part of what we teach is we have this saying of up and down the chain of command. And I think a lot of people think of leadership as top down. And I see this play out all the time where you can be in a position and you can lead up the chain of command. And that sometimes is the most effective leadership we have to implement. So leadership is universal and everyone has the ability to get better at it and apply these principles to be effective in solving their problems and challenges.
Let me bring up a couple of the core tenets from extreme ownership. And you hear that, that it's applicable to your family, it's applicable to your work, it's applicable to the battlefield, wherever you are. First one, I just love cover and move. To me, I love that. To me, that means teamwork, relationships, right?
100%.
All right. And then I got your back, you got mine. It might be a life and death situation, or it just might be at your house. Like your wife works that day and, hey, I got the wash, right? You worked all day. Or listen, I got dinner. Or if we're like we got each other's back, or you move, I'll cover you. So take her. Could you fill in the gaps, or like what would you add to that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Cover and move, it's fundamentally a gunfighting tactic, but I have never been in a gunfight. What this really is in our daily life, it's teamwork. It's working together to accomplish the mission. And the way that we do that is we prioritize building and maintaining strong relationships. And in truth, this is something people do not spend their time doing because it takes time to develop a relationship with someone. And when we talk about a relationship, this isn't just, oh, I like this person. They come over to my house on the weekends and have barbecues, or I know their kids and I understand what they're doing. You can have a relationship with someone you don't like. It's prioritizing and recognizing that, hey, we are one team. And if any one person on the team fails, the entire team fails. That puts everyone at risk. So it's setting aside your own needs and your own, the things that you need to get done. And you're looking for ways to support and encourage the people around you so that the team can win. And so cover and move is all about building relationships. We do that through reciprocal trust, listening, influencing, and respect. And when we do those things and we prioritize relationships, it's incredible what we can get done together as a team.
I also think like gratitude comes in there, like not taking people for granted. There's someone let's just say you're the boss, or you're high up in the organization, right? Not the main guy or the main girl, but you're up there. And maybe the janitor, like if you got to respect that janitor, you got to take care of that janitor, make sure they're right, because all of a sudden, like the chairs aren't out for the assembly, or if that janitor doesn't do his job or her job, like the whole place, like the biggest meeting of the year can maybe not go off the way it needs to because you didn't take care of everyone on your team, right? You took someone for granted.
100%. I think gratitude is a big part in how we establish and maintain relationships. We have to show gratitude for the work that people are doing and how they're contributing to the mission. I think a lot of companies, the way we see this play out sometimes is when people are explaining their mission or what the goal of the company is, part of doing that effectively is helping everyone on that team understand not just what the broader mission is for the organization. Hey, we're going to make a lot of money and make our shareholders happy. It's the broader mission and how it applies to them. What are we doing to support them in their endeavors and their efforts? How are we mentoring them? How are we helping them grow? A big part of that is the way we show our gratitude is the way that we lead people, the way that we give them ownership, give them autonomy, give them freedom to help them solve those problems. That's more of what people want, even more so than the financial component in a job. It's that ability to feel connected to the mission. And that's a big part of building relationships and helping people feel tied to the mission of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, if you can connect to the mission, like that's like the culture. Like you build a culture where everyone cares and everyone has each other's back. It's hard to lose. It's not saying you're never going to lose, but man, you're going to do so much good when you're connected and you care about each other and you have each other's back. You don't take anyone for granted. You're building relationships. Like that's just a place, no matter if you're owning a restaurant, your family, or you're out on the battlefield, that's something where that culture is, that's a winning culture that's going to be highly successful.
And unfortunately, too many people don't recognize that. They don't recognize the value that having strong relationships, the ability to solve problems in a much more timely and efficient manner when you have those strong relationships up, down, and across the chain of command.
Yeah. How about moving on to the next principle? And this, I get pushback for this. I try to lead my team. I lead the sales team with this. I'll throw it out there. Simple. I try to keep everything so simple for my state school brain. I just try to keep things so, all right, we have 1 to 3. I'm a big Jim Collins fan who wrote Good to Great. And his research shows if you have more than 3 priorities, you have none. If you're everywhere, you're nowhere. And we always try to focus on 1, 2, maybe 3 priorities and own them, right? What do you get out of the simple principle in leadership that you teach?
Yeah, there's a couple ways that simple comes out to play. One is the mission. The mission for your organization, for your team, has to be simple, clear, concise. It has to be something that everyone understands. Where are we trying to go? What is the end state and the goal? The next thing that we have to do once we have that clear, simple, concise mission, we have to create plans and processes that are simple, clear, and concise so we can execute towards that mission. And then the last, most critical part of any leadership endeavor is being able to communicate effectively, communicate in what we call the simple, clear, and concise manner. And our test, the reason why simple is so critical is that this is really a test on our communication, not whether or not they understand us and they're going and executing. It's, are we communicating in a simple, clear, and concise manner? And sometimes that means we need to adjust the way we're communicating based on who we're communicating with. Yeah. So the simple component is really a test for us. We have a really cool tool that we utilize for this called the readback. And I have found this to be an awesome practical way for companies and organizations and teams to ensure alignment and ensure that there's clear, simple communication. And the way that works is I might say, hey, Joe, I'm going to put out some information. And at the end, I want to get a readback from you. And there's 2 ways people can do this. The first way is because I want to make sure you understood what I said. That way isn't going to work. It's not going to be effective. The small twist in the way that we say this is, hey, I want to get a readback so that I can make sure I communicated effectively and I didn't miss anything important. And when I put that on me and I show them that this is a test for me, if they can give me a readback and we're aligned, I can say, go execute, run with it. But too often what happens is leaders put out information and they say, do we have any questions? They don't get any questions.
Crickets.
And they just think, okay, cool. I communicated so well. My team knows what's going on. They have no questions. And as people run off in the wrong direction, they waste a bunch of time and the leader gets frustrated. Hey, they didn't do what I told them to do. And this readback can really be a simple tool to make sure we're communicating effectively.
The readback, that's probably one of the tactics I stole from the book that I've been using since Jump Street with the material that you teach, where someone above me will give me some orders or some ideas to do with my squad. And I'll say, all right, Jamie, when I leave, I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. Anything else? Am I missing anything? No. Then if I go and do 1, 2, and 3, there's no way we can't be on the same page. If you tell me to do something, I clarify it, you agree that's the mission, then we go execute. Like, it's hard to go off track there, right?
100%. Chris Voss never split the difference.
Yeah.
He was a big time negotiator. And that's one of the tactics he used. He calls it mirroring. It's the same thing. You're just mirroring back the information. And that creates that sense of alignment. And I'll tell you a funny little story, a time where I didn't use the readback and it cost me. I've got a 9-year-old daughter. And I said, hey, Charlie, can you go load the dishwasher? And she was like, yep. And she ran off to do the job. And an hour later, I see the sink is full of dishes. And I'm like, hey, I thought I asked you to load this. She's like, I did. And I realized she said, you said unload the dishwasher. So she's now taking dirty dishes from the dishwasher all throughout my kitchen in various cabinets and drawers. And I realized, hey, this is my fault. I didn't communicate effectively. There's a chance I actually did say unload. But even if I didn't say that, I didn't ask her for a readback. And that's something we use in our family regularly. It's something I use with my team. I'm very familiar with the readback. And that quick double check. It is so simple and so short. That quick double check ensures that alignment and no one's running off doing things that they shouldn't be doing and wasting time. So you're right. It's a very effective tool.
And no need for paper plates that night. That's a paper plate night. You don't need paper plates for.
Let's just say we had fun finding all the dirty dishes. I don't think we got them all, but we survived.
That's awesome. Another one, I think is so spot on. I love this one. Prioritize, execute. Because there's just being in the middle management, being like a parent, There's so much coming at you, from your kids' sports schedules to stuff at work to what time's jujitsu tonight to whatever. And you have all this. There's 27 things I can do today. Maybe I can get 4 done of these 27 in a good day, right? And I got to figure out what's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And that prioritization is so big. Take it from there. But you can prioritize, because you could be working really hard on the wrong things and get nothing done, right?
100%. Yeah, the big thing with prioritize and execute is that this is something everyone is facing. No one is waking up in their morning and thinking like, wow, I have nothing to do today. Everyone's got this list and these weighing priorities that they have to manage. And oftentimes our plates are overwhelming. We're also balancing multiple plates. To your point, you've got home life, you've got work life, you've got your own personal endeavors, and you've got to constantly be juggling through those things. A lot of that comes down to balance, and how do you balance those things? Nothing's ever perfectly balanced, but the real key to being able to prioritize and execute, the tool that we teach, is learning how to detaching from our emotions. It's only when we are detached from our emotions we can take the right view and see the truth of what actually needs to get done and what of these things is going to have the biggest impact on the broader mission. We are not teaching people to be unemotional. I think emotions are certainly a critical part to understanding what is a priority, but we don't get to see the truth if we're caught up in the emotional side of it. Too often, what happens is we start to feel overwhelmed and we start to get emotional, we start to get frustrated, and those emotions cloud our vision of, okay, what is it that I need to get done right now, and focus on executing. So we have to get really good at recognizing those red flags, those things that tell us, hey, I'm starting to feel emotional in this particular instance. Let me take a step back. Maybe that's taking a breath, taking a step back. Maybe it's physically detaching, going for a walk, hiding in the closet for 10 minutes, whatever you need. And then coming back to the problem with fresh eyes and no emotion to be able to say, okay, this right here is going to have the biggest impact on the mission of what I'm trying to accomplish. And sometimes you might have a big project and maybe 12 other quick things that you need to get done. Sometimes it's more effective to go knock out those smaller things and get them off your plate and off your mind so that you can focus more on the big project. But we can't understand that or see it properly if we're not detached first.
Yeah, and that detached, get off the line. Jocko writes a lot about like just getting off the line. And one thing I stole from you guys back in the day, and I use it all the time when it's really crazy. I think it's called RLM, relax, look around, make a call, right? Like literally you step back off of like the chaos, and it doesn't have to be 100 yards. Like you could just take a couple steps back and just see like the chessboard a little bit more than you being in the middle. And like you just look around like, all right, I'm going to make a new call. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I have a good example of this. I love this saying, relax, look around, make a call. This could be a mantra you tell yourself. And here's the real trick to being good at detaching. Look for every opportunity in your day to detach. I am looking for every moment of, okay, I'm feeling frustrated because my 14-year-old just knows the right button to push and he's hitting it. I'm going to detach. I'm going to separate myself from this position. Because the better we get at detaching in the small, insignificant ways, the more equipped we're going to be to detach when the time comes where we have big problems we need to solve. And nothing was more evident to me than an example that I had 2 years ago. My husband, who was a Navy SEAL and did all these crazy stuff, never got hurt, never got injured. And yet we were moving and he was carrying a mirror and he stepped off the back of the truck and this mirror shattered and a large piece of the mirror went through his wrist. So we're now in a chaotic environment. There's blood everywhere, mirror shattered. I've got kids crying. And my husband, who is trained to detach, who understands this very well, very calmly said, this is bad. His calmness bred my calmness. And because I've been practicing and teaching this ability to detach, I was able to take a breath, relax, look around, and I made a call. We needed to get a tourniquet. Then you start to feel that pressure again, relax, look around, make a call. We got to get you in the car. The ambulance is not going to get here in time. Relax, look around, make a call. We made another decision on the way to the call. I left my kids and called my dad to go get them. And all these things are happening at once. And it was only through my ability to detach and his initial response in being so calm and detached that we were able to get him to a place as opposed to being minutes away from likely bleeding out in our driveway. So in those moments, we have to practice every single day so that when the big things happen, we are capable to take a step back and relax and look around and make a call. And only when we do that can we recognize, okay, here's what I need to do right now to solve this problem. So we got to practice. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, wow. And I forget who said this, but I think this saying is appropriate there. Like when he cut his wrist, I love this quote, calm is contagious. So like he's calm, that makes you calm. And then you all of a sudden your ability to relax, take a step back, detach, make a call, like that calm is contagious, right? And you all rubbed off on each other. Amazing.
And you can use that the other way. Chaos is contagious. Yeah. We've also used the phrase calm breeds calm, chaos breeds chaos. If you are amped up and chaotic and crazy and frustrated and losing grip of your emotions, you will breed that in the people around you. But if you can speak calmly, you can relax, you can look around, you can make a call, that is also going to be contagious with your team. And people are going to respond in the same way that you're putting that out there. So it's very important that we're not just detaching for ourselves, but that we're detaching for our team. That's a critical part of being a leader, setting the example.
Last one I want to cover on the principles, decentralized command. And this is the one.
Decentralized command.
What's that?
Decentralized command.
Oh, I zoned out. Decentralized command. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where I think ego comes into play a lot, where if you have a leader with big ego, guy, girl, whoever it is, and they're just like, I'm in control, I'm the charge, like very micro. Why do you think it's so hard for some people to let go and let decisions be made at like the second, third, fourth level down, even on the street level, right? Like we want leaders on every level. And we need that decentralized command. And can you speak about that, what decentralized command is and why it's so important?
Yeah, decentralized command is simply the idea that everyone leads. And in order to implement this effectively, we have to empower the people around us to step up and lead and make decisions. And in order to do that, we have to give them a lot of ownership in how the plans and things that we're putting in place get executed. The hardest part for leaders in implementing decentralized command, and you bring up a very good point when it comes to ego, is that oftentimes if we're a leader in a position or we've been at an organization for a long time, first of all, we know how to solve the problem, probably more effectively than other people. So it's our instinct sometimes to step in and solve that and take away their opportunity to come up with their own solutions. And then sometimes we get into the place of that's how people feel valued. Sometimes it's a little bit more of an insecurity than it is I know all. It's more so that if I let go of this, what am I now expected to do? I have seen this in myself. We run this big event called the muster. And the first muster, it was me and like a very small group of people running that entire event. And I was a part of every single aspect in detail. And the further out that we've become, the less involved I am. And if anything, I get in my team's way and they're managing everything. And so I had to learn over time to let go. And that's a hard thing as a leader to say, okay, the best thing I can do for the team is to actually let go of this because they want to step up. They want to provide value. They want to take on that responsibility. They want to solve problems. The best thing I can do for them is instill my trust that they can do that and empower them to run that. And then take ownership if something goes wrong. I can still step in as a leader and say, hey, this is on me. I should have provided better resources or training for you. But ultimately, the hardest part is letting go. But once you do that, you start to see that instead of just not having anything to do, I can now be much more up and out. I can do other things to better support the team. I can take on and think more strategically than I was able to before when I was so wrapped up in the details and the tactics. So it's a difficult thing to do for leaders. It is the absolute best thing we can do for our team is to empower them to lead and make decisions and contribute to that ultimate goal, that ultimate mission accomplishment.
Yeah, because I want to touch on extreme ownership in a second, just that concept of you own the outcome as the leader. To me, one of the definitions of leaders is they create other leaders. Like it's just not them, right? And it's so hard to create other leaders if you don't have that decentralized command. If all the decisions are made from the top down, like that old 1950s style management where it's just top down and they're telling you what to do, it's very industrialized, right? Just the boss told me to do this, I have to do this. But you have to that's how you create other leaders, right? You give them authority, you let them manage their little subgroup, what they got going on. And then maybe they do the read back, they tell you, make sure you're on the same page and you go get it, go execute. And then there's a whole nother group of leaders coming up through the chain, right?
Yeah, you are doing your team a disservice if you are not putting them in a position to lead. If you are not giving them those opportunities to solve those problems, to come up with solutions, to come up with plans and then go execute on those plans, you are not creating a team that can function without you. So if you're out of the office on a vacation or you're on an airplane and you can't get they can't get a hold of you, whatever it might be, or you move to another organization. You're putting your team in a bad position if they don't have any opportunities leading into those situations where they've been given that chance to step up and lead and solve problems. So whenever I find myself getting a little bit more into the weeds, I remember, hey, if I care about my people, I care about my team, I need to let this go. I need to give them the chance to come up with a solution here. And my job is to simply support them and look for ways to take ownership when the team fails. So when it comes to the successes, the team gets the credit and they get to run it. And when it comes to the failures and the mistakes, it's my job as a leader to step in at that point and take that on and help them solve that.
Yeah. And there's one story I heard, it might have been on the podcast. I think it was in Admiral McCraven's book that just came out, the Bullfrog book. He mentioned that there was some legendary SEALs retirement party somewhere, maybe in Hawaii, and he was giving a speech and the microphone was too far and he might've been like disabled and that no one could hear. And we were like, what should we do? And there was a SEAL way in the back, like the least guy in charge, ran up in front of 40 people and just adjusted the microphone right there. And then they asked him, I think McCraven thanked him. And he's just, I thought no one else was doing it. So I thought it was up to me. He didn't have the title, but he was the leader at that time. It just came in and did. I thought that was really cool.
I actually hired someone once at San Diego State University. We did this group interview and outside, we were out in this, wherever location we was, there was a door down the hallway that was open and they were doing yard work and it started mid interview and it was about 6 minutes in and everyone noticed it was a little loud. And this one kid, and I'll say kid, even though he was a young adult, he was 18, he got up and he walked out in the middle of the interview to go shut the door. And I remember thinking like, you know what? It was such a simple thing, but the fact that he was default aggressive and he went and solved the problem, like indicated to me like, okay, there's something there. And I actually hired him massively based on that one example to me that, hey, this guy's going to be someone who's going to figure it out and see there's a gap. Let me go fill it.
That's all you needed to know. Yeah, you saw that. I told you it's like a microcosm. That's all you need to know about that person. That's so cool. That's one thing. You mentioned extreme ownership. Here's one thing that it took me a while to figure out. Just say you do the read back and you're simple, you cover move, you prioritize, execute, decentralized command. You have all this going on, but still things go wrong. And say it happens 4 levels down, the cashier does something wrong with the customer and you're the CEO of the company. That extreme ownership, taking ownership of what went wrong, even though it was like levels below you. Can you speak to why that's important and why that's the right thing to do?
Yeah, so my whole brief at the muster, when I go talk at these events, it's literally titled The Barriers to Extreme Ownership. And the reason it was created is because, to your point, people understand the general concept of ownership and they say, okay, I get it. Extreme ownership. I'm going to take ownership of everything in my world, everything that impacts the mission. I'm going to take ownership of that. But the actual application is much more difficult. This is very simple, but it is not easy. And so the challenge for people was that they'd start off on the path of ownership and they'd hit these barriers that would prevent them from taking ownership in a meaningful and effective way. And one of those barriers is the exact scenario that you are playing out. What if it's truly not my fault? And I remember talking to Jocko about this once, and I was prepping for this brief, and I posted this question because I was like, hey, if you hit this barrier, the first thing you should do is take a step back. That detachment is critical. And then you should ask yourself this question. And the question I posed was, how can I make this my fault? And when I first asked the question, Jocko didn't really like it. His feedback was like, I don't know, because you're giving people this out of, listen, it's not really your fault, but how can you make it your fault? And he didn't like the little bit of an out. But as we talked about it more, he realized that for a lot of people starting out on this journey of ownership, that is where you're starting. It's asking that question, how can I make this my fault? Or how can I take ownership of this? And what you have to do in those situations is ask yourself that question earnestly, in a detached perspective, detached from your emotions, detached from your ego, which is telling you and trying to convince you that this isn't your fault. Take a step back from all of that and just brainstorm. Just pull the thread on that a little bit. And if you pull the thread long enough, it always lands back to you. As the chief operating officer at Echelon Front, if someone on our front lines does something and it impacts our mission, that is my fault. There is something along that path that I could have done to help prevent this from happening. Or the step of ownership that I might take is I am now going to take ownership in solving this and ensuring that we put a process in place to prevent this problem from happening again. So when you feel yourself hit that barrier, We just have to be honest with ourselves. There is always something we could have done or should be doing to help in solving this problem. And I think, just to give a quick example, we were at an event. I was with Carlos, another instructor of ours, and I had a guy in the front row. His name was Jeff, and he raised his hand kind of mid-presentation. It was a little bit of an awkward timing. And he was just like, hey, this is all great and stuff, but I just don't think this works. There's things in my life where my team just needs to go do the thing that I'm asking them to do. And if they don't do it, that's not on me. And I was like, okay, Jeff, let's go with this. And so I asked him to give a specific scenario, and he mapped out the scenario. Everyone around the room, you could see them all going, yeah, you know what? That's actually a good point. And so I said, listen, we're going to take 2 minutes, and I just want to brainstorm as a group. How can Jeff take ownership of this problem? And it was quiet. And then one person raised their hand, and another person raised their hand. And in 2 minutes, we had 27 different ways Jeff could take ownership of this problem. Now, some of those were outlandish and never going to work. Some of those were really good ideas, but would mean a whole overhaul and maybe isn't super reasonable. But there was about 5 or 6 immediate things Jeff could do to help and solve that problem and ensure that it didn't happen again. And it was just a testament that when we feel this barrier of this isn't really my fault, if we truly take a step back, if we put our ego in a freaking box, we can actually figure out a way to take ownership of the situation and ownership of how we respond and solve the problem.
Yeah, that's so good. 2 things I found when this is probably the concept I probably picked up the last cover move I got, simple, I got right away, like that extreme ownership in every situation. If I drop the ball in the end zone, like that's my fault. But maybe if I was the one designing the play and the guy was wide open and dropped it, a couple of years ago, I was not inclined to say that was my fault. But I found that when you take ownership, like of the outcome, at least of your attitude, or at least of what went down, if you take ownership, it is so disarming. If you go to someone like, you know what, we lost, it was completely, I didn't put my people in the right position. I didn't do the training. I got to up the training. I got to do this better. I got to organize better. I got to make sure we're on the same plan. Like that is so disarming. And then on the other side, if you blame other people, you blame not yourself, you lose respect. How quick does respect leave the leader? The leader loses respect when they don't own the outcome. Is that fair to say?
100%. That's actually the first barrier that I teach. That's one of the barriers is, hey, some people don't take ownership because they fear that they'll lose respect by taking ownership. Because I think we have this mindset that leaders don't make mistakes, and it makes you look weak as a leader if you step up and say, hey, I made a mistake. This is my fault. But the reality is that fear is completely unfounded. And I have seen this time and time again. If I give you 2 options of people to work with, and one person casts blame, makes excuses, points fingers, or maybe just doesn't even contribute to the conversation, they avert their eyes in the meeting and they try to just go under the radar, as opposed to someone who steps up and says, hey guys, listen, this is my fault. This is how I contributed to this problem. This is how I'm going to solve it and make sure this never happens again. Anyone listening to those 2 options would so much rather work with the person that's taking ownership. That respect goes through the roof, that ability to influence people. And to your point, disarm them where people go, oh, they just took ownership of that. Okay, wait, there's a little bit of our ego that starts to want to take ownership too. Where we go, wait a minute, you don't get all our ownership in this. And now we start to actually solve this problem. So I think too often it's just in our mind, we think that taking ownership makes us look weak. But what makes us look weak is pointing fingers and casting blame and making excuses. And unfortunately, we are not born with this natural ability to take ownership. It is not part of our human tendencies. So we're constantly fighting against that human tendency, that ego that is trying to convince us that we are right and this is not our fault. And we have to set those aside. And when we do it, ownership is liberating. It gives us all the control we need to solve the problems that we're facing. It is an unbelievable gift if we can get it right and we can set that ego aside and see the truth of the situation, which is, in fact, this is our fault and we need to take ownership of this.
Just be able to own at least the outcome. Like you own the outcome, you own the next steps, you own that problem, and you're there to fix it. And that just builds so much respect, and it just builds the culture. That's just all the money. I appreciate you sharing that. Real quick, before we move on, I know you do a lot of work with women in leadership. What are some of the unique challenges in today's modern workplace with women in leadership? What are some of the struggles or obstacles that the average woman has in leadership these days?
I think women are incredible. I think they're incredible leaders. I think they have these natural ability with what makes them women that gives them an upper hand in leadership. I truly do. And I think too many people look at women in leadership as a disadvantage. I don't see it that way. I actually think women, we have an advantage. I think we're better at managing multiple plates of responsibilities. I think we're better at communicating oftentimes. I think we're better at understanding perspectives and getting feedback. I think that women have these incredible gifts and skills. And I think the biggest challenge facing women is their own barriers that they put for themselves. It's women are handling so much. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. I run a household. My husband was deployed many times. And so I ran the home front while he was gone. He still travels now for work. And I think women constantly have these overwhelming plates of responsibility, and it's difficult and challenging. And I think the biggest thing getting in our way of taking these natural leadership abilities that we have are the barriers that we put on ourselves. And I think if women can recognize that they are needed in the workforce, they are needed at home, and that truly what they are doing in any capacity in business and in life is leadership, when they recognize that, they can take these principles and they can solve any problem that they're dealing with, and they can own everything. This idea that women have it all? Yes, absolutely, they can have it all if that's what they want. But that requires ownership of everything as well.
I have been lucky to work with a bunch of amazing leaders through my career, but I think some of the best I've worked for were women. There are some women gave me some of my biggest breaks I've ever had in my career, and there were some of the best leaders, and I've learned so much. So I agree. They just see things. There's an intuition. I know the one I'm thinking of that I work for. There's an intuition they have. They feel things out. They see things. They go, oh, something's not right. What is it? And great stuff. And I appreciate you sharing that. How about this? I want to switch gears here real quick to a part of the interview we call Share Your Secrets. So our guests get to know you a little bit more as a person. How about Jamie? You got so much going on. You got 3 kids. You're the chief operating officer of Echelon Front. You have all these events all over the country you run. When you need to clear your mind and recharge your body, what do you do?
Hike or jujitsu?
Hike. Awesome. Let's go. So hike. Where do you like to hike?
So I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. It's absolutely incredible and beautiful out there. So we lived there for 6 years when my kids were little, up until about 3 years ago when we moved to Virginia Beach. But the mountains up there are absolutely stunning. My favorite thing to do is go just meet up with a friend and go on a trail hike. I love backpacking. I've been doing that the past couple of years with a group of women, which is very special to go out and you're responsible for only yourself and all this stuff and this gear, and you have to manage that. So I love that. It's the best place to detach, in my opinion. Here in Virginia Beach, we're a little more limited. So I might go for longer walks. There's a couple trails, not quite as beautiful as Washington, but still pretty awesome.
Let's talk jujitsu. Definitely common interest we both have. Tell us about your jujitsu journey and what you got going on with jujitsu.
Yeah, I highly recommend jujitsu for every single person on the planet. It is just an incredible opportunity to practice humility, practice checking your ego. For me, it's the only time where my brain stops thinking. I can actually get a moment or break of all the things going on because I'm only worried about what's happening in that moment. Am I going to get choked? Do they have my arm? What are they doing? I love it because it's so physically and emotionally draining and exhausting, but I love that. Like, I love that sense of it. I started a couple years ago with a women's group only, and I just started training with women, fell in love with it, and started picking up training. And now my journey is going to be very long. My journey to black belt is like 100 years because I go hard for a month and then I'm out for 2 months and I have to manage that. So I'm constantly trying to find that balance. I don't get to train as often as I would like to, but I absolutely love it. The confidence it cultivates, especially in women, I think is really special. And you get so many opportunities to check that ego and keep that ego in check.
Our academy has a sign that says, please leave your ego and shoes at the door. Enter with the beginner's mind. And there's nothing that gives you that present moment focus like jujitsu, because you're on the ground, the mat. Everyone's 60 pounds heavier than me, and now they're 15 years younger. And you can't think of anything, but they're going for the north-south. Oh, they got side control. Wait, they're going for my feet. You have all these things going through your head. You can't not think about exactly what's in front of you. It's so liberating and mind clearing. And like when you drive home, like after maybe with the class is 45 minutes long and we do 20 minutes of rolling, we're there for about an hour and a half and we go home. And like your mind is so clear, isn't it? It's just so zen.
You're too exhausted to think about anything else.
Yeah.
I have done CrossFit and marathons and like Tough Mudders. Like I've done hard training. Nothing is more exhausting in every capacity, physically, mentally, and emotionally than jujitsu. But that's what I love about it, because there's also like this adrenaline kick that comes later. You drive home, you're exhausted, you're a total wreck and mess. And then there's that moment of clarity that I get an hour after when everything settles. And there's nothing that enables me to attach more than going to jujitsu and trying to piece together what we're doing in the move and what's happening in this moment. It's an incredible leadership opportunity as well. I learned so many lessons in jujitsu that apply, or I can see the principles we teach that play out in jujitsu. It's an incredible leadership opportunity.
I think I saw a picture online. Did you get your blue belt? Or did you get your blue belt?
I did, reluctantly.
That's what that feel like. That's a big move, man. That's a big move getting the blue belt. What was that like?
Yeah, I think every day I show up to that gym, I want to hand it back and say, can I just have the white belt back? There was a part of me that I loved being the white belt warrior. And part of that is that I still feel this need. And I think my instructor knows this about me. I feel this need to now earn the blue belt, which is an interesting thing now that I've received it. But I have this very strong sense that I need to earn it, that whatever, yes, he gave that to me, but I feel like I haven't earned it yet. And part of that is consistency for me. I love training, but I have a lot of responsibilities. And if there's one thing that ends up going off that plate of responsibilities, it's jujitsu, because that's for me. And right now I've got 3 kids that need me and a business that needs me. And so if there's one thing I let go, it's the thing that's mine. I think for me, it's that constant effort now that I have it of I've got to really earn this, because I don't necessarily feel this sense that I deserve it.
There's like a little every belt you get, there's a little bit of pressure. It gets heavy. Like, I don't want it. You see your name on that list. You're like, I don't want that belt. I don't want it. But it's great. That blue belt,
especially as a woman, because I feel like I show up now and the white belts think that I'm like, I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's okay. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Just because I'm wearing the belt doesn't mean anything. We're starting at the same level here. So it's been fun though. I really love it.
my first jiu-jitsu instructor was Steve Maxwell. He's one of the first American black belts. I trained with him here in Philly. And he said, when you got your blue belt, it means you officially belong. It's like you pledged your fraternity and you got in. So like you're in the frat or the sorority. So that's so great. Congrats on that. How about this? If there's maybe a person out there, a woman, a guy, that maybe that's somewhere in an organization that just doesn't feel like they have what it takes to lead, right? Maybe they're lacking confidence. What would you tell them?
Start taking ownership. Just start looking for ways to take ownership. It's a game changer. If you want some practical things, and this is not a pitch, this is free content out there. The Academy has some free courses. One of my favorite courses is Jocko and Dave go through what we call the extreme ownership framework. And it's all about how do you take ownership in conversations in a meaningful way. So if I'm having a conversation with someone and I want to take ownership and I recognize I need to take ownership, what does that sound like? And it gives you an opportunity to practice that. I'm going to understand the problem. I'm going to communicate the impact to this person or to the team. If this problem doesn't get solved, I'm going to take 100% ownership for this problem. And then I'm going to provide some solutions. And that framework right there, if you get really comfortable using that in everyday conversations, can start to help you take ownership in a real and meaningful way. And you start to see the impact in those conversations immediately. So I love that course. It's on the Extreme Ownership Academy. It's completely free. We also do what we call the Rundown, which is a twice a month newsletter that's all about leadership and can give someone who maybe wants to take the next step in leadership, wants to understand their capabilities, a chance to engage with the content and the principles that we teach so they can understand more effectively how to apply these principles in solving their problems.
And the Rundown, it's a free podcast. It's fantastic. It comes out every couple weeks maybe, or it comes
every
out
2 weeks. We're moving in the direction of trying to do that weekly. It's a newsletter. Great. You can get to read, or we record it and you can just listen to it and Leif reads it. And they're short and to the point, and we're addressing the main questions people are asking around leadership. So the research we get on, hey, what do people want to know about leadership? What are the problems that they're facing? What are the questions they're asking? And then those articles are intended to help provide some answers to those questions.
I'm going to put that in the show notes. We spoke about a lot, Jamie, over the last hour. If you could have everyone listening take just one lesson away from everything we discussed, what would that lesson be?
Stop making excuses. Stop making excuses. It has become part of our nature. It is everything in our instinct is to get us to make an excuse when things go wrong. Ownership gives us the control and the liberty to solve those problems. So when we start to make that excuse, take that step back and say, how can I make this my fault? How can I take ownership of this? How can I solve this problem? And take extreme ownership in every capacity in your life. And I promise you, everything in your life will get better. Every single thing will get better. Not easier. It's difficult to take ownership, but it will get better, and you will be able to solve that problem more effectively when you stop making excuses and start taking ownership.
Stop making excuses, take ownership. Word. How about the last two questions here? Here's a fun one. Jamie, if you could spend the day with anybody, historical figure, famous, not famous, alive or dead, who would you spend the day with?
I love this question. At this point in time, if I could spend the day with anyone, it would be my father-in-law, who was a pillar of leadership and an example to me, and passed a few years. And I wish I could just spend one more day with him, learning from him.
That is awesome. Your father-in-law. Last question, Jamie Cochran. If you had to get a quote or a saying tattooed on your body, what would that quote or motto say?
Leadership is the solution.
Leadership is the solution. I think that is about as good as a spot as any to wrap this up. Jamie Cochran, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Honor to speak with you. Just love the work you're doing. If people are looking for you, Jamie, and Echelon Front and all the great work you do online, where can we find you?
EchelonFront.com, ExtremeOwnership.com. You can check out all the things we're doing at Echelon Front. We have a lot of free stuff on the Academy. We've got some other really cool courses. We do a lot of consulting and on-site work with clients that are more intended for organizations and teams. And then for the women out there, we run a free monthly women's assembly. They can join free and join us for that live virtual session where we talk about these principles as it relates to women in leadership. So we're all over. Just check out echelonfront.com.
I'm going to put all of them in the show notes. Jamie Cochran, thank you for joining us. So awesome to see you, and keep rocking. You're doing amazing work.
Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate the time.
Awesome. Real quick. Hey, Jamie, that was a cut. That was so awesome. You crushed it. Oh my gosh, that was so good. I love it. I love it.
This is good prep. I'll tell you, I'm going on Jocko's podcast next week. And
Are you?
I'm so nervous,
Awesome.
which is crazy because I worked with him for 9 years. We have an amazing relationship. I talk to him daily, but the thought of being on his podcast makes me so nervous.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. I do the underground. I guess you get, I've been doing the underground. Oh my gosh, you get on it. What are you going to talk with subs? What are you going to go with?
And Jocko will lead it. I think we're just going to talk. He goes in depth. So we'll probably spend a lot of time talking about my time here and some of the things we've seen and building this together and stuff like that. We'll see. I'm just showing up and I'm going to answer questions.
It's going to be 3 times as long as this one. It's going to be like 3 hours instead of 1 hour. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
And real quick with Jocko, I bought tickets for my son and I. He's coming to Philly, Decisive Engagement or something.
Yeah, I'll be there.
You going to be there? Cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be there with my son, and it's in July, I think, like maybe some weekend in July. And
hit me up closer to it, and we will. I can potentially get you guys in for the VIPs that are doing it. Like he's doing a little Q&A.
Would love to. I went to look to buy that. I got seats close.
They were sold.
I couldn't. I went to pre-sale and they were gone. Oh,
they only did 50 and they sold super quick. But if you email me, I can get you on like our list and you guys can come in. Yeah.
Oh my God. My son and I, we would love it. Oh my God. He just started training. He just got his blue belt and he's so into it. Oh my God. Thank you. I'll just send you and Kayla an email like a couple weeks beforehand.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
What belts are you?
I've been training I'm black. I got my black a year ago. I trained at a Helsing Gracie school in Philly. Bill and Rick Migleris. And are you guys training at all when you're in Philly? Are you guys doing any jujitsu?
No, he's going back to back. So he does a show the night before and then that show, and then he flies out the next morning. So no. Gotcha, I've been training here. Gustavo Machado.
Oh, Machado, really?
Yeah, I love him. He's amazing. He was Jocko's instructor when Jocko was a blue belt. So when I moved out here to Virginia Beach, I'm like, Jocko, where do I go? He was like, the only gym you can go to is Gustavo Machado's. I look it up online and it's 8 minutes from my house.
Oh
I was
my
like,
gosh,
dude,
perfect.
this was meant to be. Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh my gosh. How often, when you get there, how much a month would you get there? Like how many times do you train, you think, these days?
When I'm in it, I'm
Yeah.
going like 3 times a week.
Perfect. That's what I got to do. Perfect.
Yeah. And I would love to go 4 or 5. If I could train every day, I would. But yeah. And then what happens is I go 3 or 4 times a week for 2 months, and then they don't see me for 4 months. But I love him. He's so great. Every time I show up, he always he knows everyone's name. It's amazing to me. And he'll walk in and he'll give me a big hug. And then he like announces to the room, because there's always new people coming in. He'll be like, this one travels. She's so busy. Like, he makes it a big deal. And I'm like, Gustavo, I'm just trying to come in here and get under the radar. So I've been out of it for probably 3 months, and I just went back 2 days ago for my first class in a while, and they're so great. They welcome me with open arms. There's never like a sense of judgment whatsoever.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Okay, keep rocking. Thank you for joining us. You're awesome. And I'll send you an email like maybe around the 4th of July, a couple of weeks beforehand. And it would be awesome to meet you. And if you could get us to that group, that'd be an honor. That'd be so great.
Yeah. Send an email to Kayla and I. We'll get it on the list.
You rock. Jamie, thank you so much. Keep rocking. And I can't wait to hear your podcast with Jocko.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.